biography. I'm carrying on from where I left off. So I was on page 92. Now, yeah, I'm still on page 92 actually. Okay, so start. Carefully observe the ebb and flow of defiling influences in your mind. Don't let them deceive you so readily. When you're skilled enough to catch their movements, you can transform their negative power into positive spiritual energy. Simply fetching water. Chee Kaew's bold move created a stir of excitement in Ban Huai Sai's close-knit community. Interested parties on both sides of the family voiced strong opinions. Being local women themselves, the nuns at Wat Nong Nong could not avoid becoming caught up in the ongoing drama. They supported Chee Kaew in her decision. Most of them had even encouraged it, but the situation attracted unwanted attention to their community, which led to the involvement of village affairs in monastic life. This unwelcome intrusion was further exacerbated by the close proximity of the monastery to the village. A reasonable solution was therefore urgently needed to protect spiritual harmony from being disrupted by mundane village concerns. Changing locations started to become a serious possibility as the nuns considered ways to distance themselves. Mai Chi Dang was convinced that the religious community, for the sake of its long-term well-being, must move far enough away that village affairs could no longer impinge daily upon its tranquil environment. Ajahn Ham Phan, the abbot of Wat Nong Nong Monastery, was a long-time disciple of Ajahn Sao Kantashilo, and a Dutanga monk well respected for his strict discipline and proficiency in meditation. As abbot of the monastery and spiritual guide to his disciples, Ajahn Ham Phan assumed responsibility for the community's welfare. Because the monks were also adversely affected by local events, Mai Chi Dang and Mai Chi Ying discussed the matter at length with Ajahn Ham Phan. Ultimately, the decision would be his. After close consultation with the monks and nuns, he chose to move to a nearby mountain range along with those who wished to accompany him and establish a new monastery. Phu Gao Mountain was located in a small range of the Phu Fan foothills, 6 miles northwest of Ban Huai Sai in an age of foot trails and buffalo carts. The rugged terrain made it a remote and inaccessible destination for the casual visitor. The upper ridges were covered with solid sandstone cliffs that dropped precipitously 20 or 30 feet to densely forested slopes of tall bamboos and hardwoods. The massive strata of rock that stretched along the cliff's length were tinted dark brown by the dry lichen clinging to their surface. The cliff jutted out over the slope below, forming natural recesses of long open grottos beneath the overhanging rock to offer protection from the harsh sun and rain. Lacking suitable dwellings at first, the monks and nuns took up residence in these bare, earthy caves, making simple platforms from bamboo. Raised on stout legs several feet above the damp ground. There they lived and meditated, each in a separate location. Having no toilets, They relieved themselves at the edge of the cliffs with an audience of amused monkeys watching from the trees. Water was a fundamental necessity and a major concern. The closest reliable supply lay a half-hour's walk from the caves in a stream that tumbled through a shallow depression between two ridges. It was decided by mutual consent that the junior nuns would be given the task of fetching water for the whole community, while the monks worked with local farmers to build the basic structures needed to lay the foundation for a new monastery. Each day after the meal, chee kaew helped the other nuns perform their water duties. She picked up 2 empty buckets, hung them from a long, straight bamboo pole, and started to walk, descending a steep, narrow path intersected by tree roots and protruding stones until she reached the stream. She knelt on the bank and watched as the buckets filled with fresh, cool water. Fixing one full bucket to each end of the pole, she centered the load on one shoulder and climbed back up the trail, over roots and around boulders, taking care not to spill her precious cargo. She reached the cave tired and out of breath, yet prepared for more trips. After emptying the buckets, she returned to the stream for another load, and then again for another. Fetching water was a tedious job. It called for the same routine each day, trudging down then up, down then up. Every day chee kaew followed the routine, and her resolve never wavered. Determined to convert mundane adversity into spiritual virtue, she meditated on Buddha as she walked, silently intoning Bud with one step, Do with the next. As her heart calmed, the buckets felt lighter and the work more effortless. Once her heart had opened, carrying water became a simple task, nothing more, nothing more or less than what she was doing, here and now in the present, one mindful step at a time. Occasionally, chee kaew's brothers came to visit her at Kaew Mountain. They were shocked and dismayed to see her living conditions and the hardship she endured. They loved their sister and wanted to show solidarity with her cause. So they helped the nuns fetch water from the stream, hauling it up the mountain, 2 heavy bucketfuls at a time. But no amount of collected water was enough to satisfy the needs of 6 monks and 5 nuns. In the end, tired and dispirited, her brothers tried to persuade her to return with them to Ban Huai Sai, where they could properly look after her needs. They assured her that her husband had remarried, sold their house, and moved with Kaew and his new family to a distant province. But chee kaew was steadfast in her determination to remain with Ajahn Ham Phan and pursue an austere, meditative lifestyle on Kaew Mountain. As time went on and the mountain monastery began to take shape, water shortage became an obstacle that seemed to threaten its long-term survival. All attempts to discover a nearby source had failed. One evening, out of desperation, chee kaew sat down, crossed her legs, straightened her back, and focused inward. She made the solemn resolve that if she and others were denied She made the solemn resolve that if she and the others were destined to stay at Kaew Mountain, she would discover a convenient source. She then practiced her meditation as usual. Later that night, as her mind withdrew from deep samadhi, a vision spontaneously surfaced of 11 pools of water, overgrown with vines and tall grasses. She recognized the mountainous terrain, for she had walked past the area several times, and it was only a short distance from the main cave. As my chee kaew's urging, At my chee kaew's urging, the nuns searched the area the following day. As my chee kaew indicated, they found many pools of water beneath the thick vegetation. Delighted, Ajahn Ham Fan had the nuns and local villagers cut back the vines and grasses and cut back. Delighted Ajahn Ham Fan had the nuns and local villagers cut back the vines and grasses and dig sediment out of the pools, some of which were 20 feet deep. When the work was complete, they found enough fresh water to supply the needs of the monks and nuns all year round. People suffer because they grasp and don't let go. Dissatisfaction follows them everywhere. Look carefully at your own heart and learn how to relinquish the cause of suffering. Through the access gate. While living in the cliffs at Fugao Mountain, Mai Chi Kaew came upon many strange and unusual phenomena in her nightly meditation. They were extraordinary things that she never experienced before. As she emerged slightly from deep samadhi, Mai Chi Kaew found her mind entering a familiar world of intersecting spiritual energies, a world occupied by countless realms of non-physical living beings. Some of these beings hailed from the dark and lowly regions, where they suffered the consequences of their evil deeds. Others came from the lofty spheres of radiance inhabited by celestial devas and brahmas. It was as though her meditation delivered her to an open gate, where her heart felt the pull of competing force fields, each vying for her attention. Ajahn Mun had called it access concentration, warning her how vulnerable she was to the disparate spiritual energies that she might encounter there, and how she must establish steadfast control over her mind before stepping out the gate. While Mai Chi Kaew took heed of Ajahn Mun's advice, she was curious and venturesome by nature, and could not resist the temptation to venture out and look around. What she witnessed both fascinated and horrified her. Disembodied spirits called, some howling, others screaming or weeping, besieging her, begging, pleading for redemption from the miserable retribution of their own misdeeds. Forms and faces clung to them like shrouds, the ghostly remnants of some past existence, some previous life, which followed them like deathly souvenirs from an unfinished journey. All pleaded for her attention, her sympathy, her grace, some gesture that would shine a ray of hope into the darkened corner of their existence. Often the disembodied spirits of slain animals appeared in her meditative visions, begging for a share of her spiritual merit to help them overcome their immense suffering. Late one night, just after Mai Chi Kaew had withdrawn from samadhi, a disembodied consciousness of a recently slain water buffalo appeared in front of her. Wailing in pain and bemoaning its fate, suspended in her vision like a ghostly apparition, The buffalo immediately communicated its sad history. As Maichi Kayu observed the message with her heart, the buffalo related that its owner was a fierce and cruel man whose heart lacked all kindness and compassion. He very often put his buffalo to work, pulling ploughs or wagons from dawn until dusk, and never showed any appreciation for the animal's daily worship. On top of that, this merciless master beat and tortured the buffalo constantly. In the end, the poor animal was tied to a tree and slaughtered for the sake of its meat. Before dying, it endured unspeakable pain and torment. It bellowed loudly, ripping the air with a sickening sound as its skull was repeatedly bludgeoned until it finally collapsed unconscious. The disembodied consciousness of the buffalo still traumatized and clinging to the remnants of its old form was hoping for a share of Maichi Kayu's merit and virtue so that it might have the opportunity to be reborn as a human being. Instinctively sensing Maichi Kayu's compassionate nature, the spirit poured out the collective pain and suffering of its species to her. The buffalo described the brutality a water buffalo must endure, the unrelenting mistreatment and neglect by human beings, constant abuse from other animals. Even a person living in abject poverty does not have to suffer the torment and indignity that a farm animal does. For that reason, the buffalo longed to be born as a human being in its next life. Maichi Kayu was surprised to hear a tale of such cruelty. She was familiar with many of the local farmers and found them to be kind-hearted and friendly people. Through her samadhi vision, she conveyed her suspicions to the animal. The buffalo claimed that its owner was a fierce and cruel man, lacking human decency, but the buffalo's heart was obviously full of hatred and vengeance, which may have distorted the truth. Meichi Kayu wondered that perhaps the water buffalo itself was misbehaving. Perhaps the owner beat it for a good reason. Opening her heart to the spirit, she communicated her query. Did you ever eat the vegetables that people planted in their gardens? Did you chew on the vegetables that people had carefully planted beside their fields? The farmers who live in this area are normally kind and gentle people. Why should they torment you if you did nothing wrong? It seems to me that you must have behaved badly to receive such treatment. Am I right? The reply of the slain water buffalo deeply touched Maichi Kayu's heart. It admitted, I did such things only out of ignorance. I was worked in the fields all day, and was never allowed in the pasture to graze. Hunger and fatigue drove me to eat whatever plants I could forage. All vegetation looked the same to me. It never occurred to me that certain plants might have an owner who was keeping an eye on them. I had no intention to steal. Had I understood human language, I might never have made that mistake. But people are far more intelligent than animals, so they should be more sympathetic and forgiving of our natural habits. They shouldn't just mercilessly exercise their power over other creatures, especially when it violates human standards of moral decency. A good person doesn't behave in such a shameful and offensive manner. Most of the farmers in this area are actually kind and gentle people, like you said. but my former master, Mr. Tun, is a fierce and cruel man who lacks human decency. That scum of the earth is a man so pitiless that he is incapable of sympathy or forgiveness. He is even cruel to his fellow men, to say nothing of lowly animals. Since childhood, my chee kaew had always felt a profound compassion for the plight of farm animals. She fed her cows and water buffalo lumps of sticky rice every day, whispering sweetly in their ears that because they worked the rice fields, they too deserved to eat rice. For that reason, the animals were very fond of her and felt appreciated. For example, when the rope around its neck holding the cowbell broke, the cow would walk straight to my chee kaew to alert her about the lost bell instead of wandering away, undetected and grateful for its freedom. Nonetheless, my chee kaew realized that even those animals which were well treated by their masters were still bound by their karma to a life of constant suffering. My chee kaew knew that feelings of hatred and revenge are major causes of birth in the lower realms of existence. Sensing the anger in her unfortunate visitor, she taught it the dangers inherent in a hate-filled, vengeful state of mind. She warned that those negative emotions ran counter to its desire to be born as a human being in its next life. If it really expected to be born human, it must keep such destructive mental defilements under control. My chee kaew explained that the 5 moral precepts are the basis of a decent human being. If the spirit were to have any chance to be reborn in a human form, it must make a solemn resolve to abide by these fundamental rules of conduct. It must not take life or cause injury to other creatures. It must not steal or take things that belong to others. Like the vegetables people plant in their gardens, it must not commit adultery or engage in harmful sexual practices. It must not lie or deliberately deceive others, and it must not indulge in any substance that causes intoxication or drunkenness. By killing, stealing, committing adultery and lying, you not only do harm to others, but you also violate the spirit of openness and trust that forms the basis of human relations. Indulging in intoxication is considered evil because it clouds the mind and readily conduces to the other 4 offenses. From a karmic viewpoint, such actions result in rebirth among common animals, hungry ghosts, or hell realms. In these lower realms of existence, suffering is intense, and a weakened capacity for spiritual development makes it very difficult to produce the necessary conditions for rebirth in the higher realms. Therefore, faithfully observing the moral precepts prevents the possibility of being born in the lower realms and helps to ensure that you will be born as a human being. That's all for today, guys. Thanks for listening. Peace be upon you.